go close-ended when there's a clear right or wrong. You go close-ended when there's one way to do something. You go close-ended when the sequence is important. You go close-ended when you're doing skills work. Okay? Not a good idea to do open-ended phonics. Open-ended phonics. What sound does short I make? Well, that's close. Boom. What's the spelling of that word? Boom. What do these two numbers add up to? Boom. That's a close-ended, and you want to stay close-ended. Okay. Most testing is close-ended. Control, you use close-ended to control. Okay. Sometimes you want to control time. There's 10 minutes left in the period. I know what I need to cover in order to give the homework assignment I want to give. I'm going to stay close-ended so I keep control of the lesson. Sometimes you go close-ended for content. Okay? Grade 8, sex education. I will ask the questions. I don't want this thing to get away from me. Here's what it is we're talking about. Now, if you go to student misbehavior, you use close-ended when you want to use your authority to get a quick fix. Okay? 18 students hard at work, 1 student tapping their pencil. Unlikely you go up to the pencil tapper and ask, why have you chosen that tune? There's 2 things you can do with your pencil. Pick one quickly. See, we're going close-ended. See, the middle grade people are all laughing. The primary folks know what that means. Put it in your desk or my desk. That's all that question meant. Now, if the same student, though, is tapping pencils all the time, now you probably want that student to stay after class, and now you're going to go open-ended with the student. Because now you want to uncover what the underlying problem is. So, if I put these 2 side by side, does it become obvious that open is good and closed is bad? No. Okay. So it depends on the circumstances. And suppose you got here late, meaning you just walked in right now. And you walk in right now and you sit down, and that's up on the board. And you sit down and you lean over to the person next to you and you say, what's he talking about? And the person next to you says, he's explaining the difference between coaching and evaluation. Now suppose you just walked in now, that's what the person next to you said, and then I called on you. And I said, go up to the board, write coaching over top of one list, write evaluation over the top of the other list. How many of you think you can go do it? Based on what I told you today, which list do you think is most like coaching? Yeah, what's coaching? It's uncovering thinking, it's opinions, it's problem solving, it's creativity. Now, will there be some closed in it? Yes. But coaching is mostly an open-ended activity. What's evaluation? Evaluation is mostly a closed-ended activity. Now, what questions can you steal? Tell me about yourself. How's it going? What's the best day you've had this week? What's one of the neatest learning things that's happened in your classroom? Those opening ones you can steal. What else can you steal? Well, imagine that I was a camera with a zoom lens. Where do you want me to zoom in? Okay? Those 2 questions. Starting them off, ending. I'll give you plenty of those in my examples today and tomorrow. Those you can steal. Most of the ones in the middle, you got to listen. On the screen is a diagram I use to structure your pre-conference. When conducting the pre-conference, there's 2 jobs that you have in mind. The first one is here, agenda. And the agenda tends to be made up of what you might call vision, mission, and beliefs. If I come into your classroom as a coach, I'd like to have a little sense of your beliefs. Then, how do you put your beliefs together with the curriculum? Because most often as a teacher, you get hired because of your beliefs. Then the school gives you a curriculum. And one of the tasks as a teacher is to figure out, how can I connect that curriculum to these beliefs? Okay? Sometimes there's a little tugging on those two. That then turns into what you might call a lesson plan or an instructional plan, and then teaching skills. Now, I can also define that as to the backwards plan we had on the board earlier. So the agenda could also be what student achievement, and what are the student behaviors and the teacher behaviors that make that up. So that's two ways to look at agenda. The best coach is the person who would stop outside the door of my classroom, take their agenda off, and put it on a hook. Put my agenda on and come into my classroom. Okay? But because we're human, we can't do that. Okay? We all tend to carry our biases and prejudice with us no matter where we go. We all have our likes and dislikes. I'm not a big fan of using proper truth. And she's using all grain. Well, I kind of need to leave my agenda out in the hall and work with her agenda. Since I can't leave it out there, the best thing I can do is listen to you enough, because I want to see your classroom through your eyes. Then, I'll tell you what I saw through my eyes. First, I want to see it through your eyes. That's the part I call agenda. The second job that you have in a pre-conference is to establish a focus. A focus is what makes coaching different from evaluation. When an evaluator comes into your classroom, the evaluator has to avoid having a focus. If an evaluator gets focused, it means they're paying too much attention to one thing. And so you can't get a good evaluation by being focused. In order to do an appropriate evaluation, you have to look at everything. Coaching, on the other hand, when you go into a teacher's classroom as a coach, you're going to disregard the majority of what's going on in there. And you're going to zero in on a very narrow focus. I mentioned earlier that the critical role of the coach is listening. So I prepared a short listening test. So if you were the coach at the end of a pre-conference, you should be able to look at your partner and fill in this first blank. I call those first two questions required. I call those first two questions required. So if you're in a conference and this is new to you, and you're having a conversation and your mind wonders, could I be finished? If you stop for a moment and just think inside your head, you don't have to say it out loud, just think inside your head. He believes that, and my focus is. If I can answer those two questions, I can wrap this up. Now, I have a third one up there. It's extra credit. We'll teach you that one tomorrow. Okay? But these two, she believes that, and my focus is. You're walking down the hall. You're going to walk into a colleague's classroom. Before you walk in, you stop in the hall and say, she believes that, and my focus is. If I can answer those two, I'm ready to go in there and coach. If I don't know the answer to those two, I'm likely to be mentoring or more supervising or snooperizing, some of these people call it, than coaching. I need to be able to answer those two questions to coach.